time is rest assured until I see me some checks and O's. Step on flows on the service close. These are things that I...
Hello, beautiful souls. This is Chop It Up, and your host is your girl, Levina, where we dive into conversations with different individuals who are creating their own unique life and light for themselves. So we speak to artists, particularly Black and Brown individuals, and we get to know them, get to know their story, get to know what they've created, and we hope that this podcast can also inspire you. So today we have a very special guest. We have Sadé Awele all the way from Vancouver here in the city today. Her recent EP that came out, Intuition, is a cool mix of African vintage and jazz style. So welcome to the show, Sadé. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing really good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I know that your first show tonight is in Edmonton, and then you're going to be going to Calgary tomorrow, and then you're going to be going across the country.
Yeah.
So how are you taking care of yourself? Have you ever done something like this back to back before? And how are you kind of taking care of yourself through that?
That's such a good question. I like to say that I've learned the hard way how to take care of myself because burnout is such an easy thing to do. I've been trying to recognize my limits. So once I'm feeling too tired or exhausted, I just shut things down for the evening. I've been focusing on things that I need to prioritize rather than focusing on everything because I can't do it all. And then also just giving myself grace and not overdoing things. So yeah, I like to think that I'm a little more chill. And have I done this before? Yeah, I did a mini tour in Europe last year, and that one was intense. I was like, okay, across the country, too many movements, like understanding transportation, languages, all of that. It was pretty intense. And that was probably what taught me how to just chill and focus on priorities because I was so exhausted. Midway into the tour, I fell sick. I had like a terrible cold. And I remember that night when it was like the peak of the cold, I had to perform. And I was like, okay, I need to take things easy and not really exhaust myself. And I made it through, but it was a lesson to really focus on priorities and not do too much on a tour.
Yeah. So how, like when you do like something like getting sick, how do you cope with that? Do you like have to force yourself to keep pushing through it?
Girl, it is tough. It's like in that moment, you just want to be in your bed, sleeping with some hot soup.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much just pushing through it. It's reminding yourself why you're doing it, what you're doing it for. I mean, granted, not everyone does that. Like some people are just like, yo, I'm done. I'm tired. Like I'm not doing this. But for me, depending on how I'm feeling, like first I gauge myself. I'm like, am I going to be strong enough to do this? Or do I think if I go on stage, I'll pass out?
Yeah.
If it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. It's like, okay, then let me get the right meds and get enough rest to be like strong for the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the easiest way I can say it. I'm one of those people that are like, okay, let me gauge. Can I handle this? Okay, if I can, then let's just push through, get what we need to get done, and then shut it down.
Yeah, no, I feel that. So we have a segment on our show called Chop Choices, kind of like a this or that. It's to let the audience kind of get to know you. So I kind of pick a few things and you kind of let me know which one you would prefer and why. So your music has blends of like traditional and contemporary vibes. So, and I know that you had a styling page, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So how do you feel like your music kind of translates into your fashion? Would you say you're more like on the vintage side, or do you prefer modern chic, or is it like a mix of both?
I think it's definitely a mix of the two. I love a lot of color. I say that as I wear black and white. But I feel like fashion is a different way that I'm able to express myself. One thing that I particularly love, especially on stage, is wearing clothes that move or clothes that shine. So that allows me to express myself in that way. And I would say that it is, it's sort of a representation of my music in that it's bold and it is vibrant. And it creates this mood of, I guess, joy and happiness. And that's sort of my way of translating that visually. But yes, definitely inspired by vintage and modern chic. And I like to think I'm a girly girl. So like to combine that into the mix as well.
Okay, so after a show, I feel like I used to dance and I performed. And I think the main thing after the show was like, you just want to eat because you're so tired.
Yes.
So what, would you prefer something like kind of fine dining after your show, or do you want something local? What's kind of like,
ooh, give me something greasy.
so you want to go like, so what would, well, you maybe don't have to name the chain, but is it like a burger? Is it like some steak?
Burger.
Like,
I just want like, cause it just feels like I've done a high intensity interval workout when I get off. Cause I love to give my best, like my absolute, like I want to feel like when I go off the stage, like I gave it everything I could. So once I'm done, I'm like, give me a burger, give me some fries, chicken nuggets, onion rings. I might not finish it all, but I just want to like eat, like greasy.
Yeah, so definitely like the local bite side.
Local bites, yeah.
Sure. So I did read that it was your grandmother who played drums? Or
my grandfather.
Your grandfather who plays drums. Yeah. And that's kind of like impacted you. So when you, like, it's also featured in your music. So when you're in the studio, you're creating, maybe you're not singing, but you're trying to figure out the sound and the beats. Yeah. Would you rather like pick up the drums to feel the rhythm, or would you rather like feel the rhythm like maybe by strumming a guitar?
That's a good question. It depends. Sometimes if I would say I usually still go first for the melody. Okay. So definitely strumming the guitar or putting together some progressions on keys. So definitely still the melody first. And then once I have that, then percussion is probably a close second. And I do love playing around with percussions in the studio, whether it's like congas, even non-percussion, like other accessories like shakers, or bongos. Yeah, that's probably the order.
So which, that's good to note because, so you play the drums.
No,
or you test it.
I test it.
You work with it.
Like I definitely have some. I'm easier to like. I can play the conga a little bit. So in Joe, for example, we do have some live sounds in there, like some shakers and things, and I did play those in the studio. Okay. And I think there was another song called "If All We Have" in the EP as well. I also played some shakers and some cool percussions in the studio. So those I can do. As long as the rhythm's already set, but when it comes to actually putting together a drum pattern, I can only program a drum pattern and then be like, hey, someone who's more experienced, who does this on the daily should come and, either play it live or it ends up getting replaced with better programmed sounds, that type of thing. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. So outside music, where do you feel like you find your creative inspiration? Would you say it's kind of like through music, a literal escape, or is it something like maybe you watch a movie or a visual? Like which one would you prefer, and how do you see yourself in that?
Yeah. Outside of music, a few ways. So for one, I just like to experience the world around me. Like I just like to walk around and be around people, observe. I'm a huge observer outside of music. I can be very quiet where people are like, are you okay? But it's like just naturally just being, in my own head, or just taking everything in, being present wherever I am. So I would say really comes from experiencing the world and doing non-creative things sometimes, because that way it allows me to just be present and just go with the flow. So that definitely is one. Another one is I love to watch documentaries, different artists across the world who have done so many incredible things. They inspire me. I love to watch documentaries that can inspire. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be documentaries about musicians or producers or artists. It can be across the board. It can be about athletes, just people that I find that are inspiring, essentially. So I do that. What else? I think I paint. So I guess it's not necessarily like a I don't know if it directly relates, maybe it does, but I have other creative interests that I dive into, and yeah.
So as a performer, you've performed at several different types of events. Which do you prefer? Obviously you love performing at both, but would you prefer something like more of an intimate gig, or would you do you like performing at things such as like big, huge festivals?
Ooh, I definitely love both. Okay. I would say in terms of the one that I feel the most fulfilled in is the small intimate shows, which is ironic because it's smaller, but I just feel that at the end of intimate shows, you really get to know the audience. You really get to spend time with them. They come up to you. You have conversations. I found that I've built stronger relationships in those smaller settings, whereas in the festivals, it's larger, it's overwhelming. There's so much going on. Those are good more for the exposure for sure. So, but definitely if I was to pick between the two, I like the intimate style.
Okay. So one of the segments in our show is also proverb picks. So I love African proverbs because I feel like they give a lot and provide a lot of wisdom. And I feel like our generation is kind of losing that. We don't use as many proverbs as like our forefathers or parents did. So being the fact that you are Igbo and Yoruba, I went to find an Igbo proverb.
Oh.
And so I'm going to read it to you in English, and you can just let me know if this like proverb resonates with you in one way or what wisdom you draw kind of from your own experience about this proverb.
Okay.
So the proverb is he who will hold another down in the mud must stay in the mud to keep him down.
Oh, wow. He who will hold another down in the mud must stay in the mud to hold them down. Wow.
So if we can dissect it, so that
I'm like, there's layers. There's layers to this. That's so interesting. It's almost like, okay, I'm getting a few things from this.
Okay.
One, definitely, okay, he who holds another down in the mud. It's almost like the mud would be a challenging place, I would imagine. Like a hard season of life. And it's like, okay, if you're holding someone down in the mud, you're supporting them through that season, or you're with them in that season, I guess. And then must stay down in the mud to
that's the part that I was reading, and I was like, what? But then it could also mean like maybe when you're doing something and like maybe you've been elevated, don't forget about like those were with you when you were starting.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like you still remember those that you were with you and you're still helping them hold it down. Maybe it's also to like help them through the mud.
Yeah, maybe. It's almost like, okay, it could be like, okay, you must stay in the mud to hold them down. It's almost like, okay, you have to stay there for them to get through it. Or maybe now that, like you said, they've elevated, they're past that stage, and now you have to like humble them. Like it's a deep one. African proverbs are deep
because sometimes I send it to my parents like, can you translate this for me? And then they'll come up with something completely different. You're like, I was like, that's the wisdom I want to gain in life.
Stay down in the mud to hold them down. So interesting.
It's a deep one.
That's deep.
Yes. So upon reading about you online and watching things that you've been on, I saw and heard from you that one of the ways that you got into music or had interest in music was through morning devotions.
Yeah.
So I know the morning devotions is 6 a.m. 5 a.m.
You know,
my parents don't try.
5 a.m., 6 a.m. I'm like, why? Like, why? Why are we doing that? You know?
And it's like, but I think it also brings a discipline though.
Yes,
because it's like, okay, well, you have to wake up in the morning to do your hour of worship and then like do everything else. Yeah. So how would you say, do you still do morning devotion like that? Or
girl,
how do or how do you kind of like involve that kind of morning devotion in like your musical process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How do I involve it in my musical process? I mean, I guess through warm-ups now would be one thing. The discipline definitely translates in different ways. Having a system of doing things. So for example, before any show, and my band is used to this now, I pray before any show, like before going on stage. Or like I definitely work on my vocals, like before and after, like warm up, cool down type things. And I always, it helps me, I guess, preparing my mind like mentally for whatever it is that I'm setting out to do, whether that's, performing or going on tour or traveling. Like I still have that moment of, okay, we're about to embark on a journey. How are we doing? Where's our mind? Are we present? Are we somewhere else? Do we need to focus? Do we need to practice some breathing exercises? Those types of things. I like how I'm saying we, as in me, myself, and I.
So with that morning devotion, that was also a time for you to be with family.
Exactly.
Right? And I also saw that you work with your brother a lot. He's also a producer. So how has that like relationship been like, you know, from children now working in
Yeah.
like the professional music space?
Yeah.
Have you like learned things different about each other that maybe you didn't know as a child? Like, wow, he's producing, and like, how has that
Yeah.
relationship been like?
It's been amazing. Like, I feel so blessed and fortunate that we grew up together and started working on music at such an early age together, because it just created this ease of songwriting, and because it was my brother, it created a sense of comfort that allowed me to create and express myself without the fear of any judgment.
Okay.
And so he always focused on the production side, instrumental. I always focused more on the songwriting side. And over the years, because of how we know each other very well, it has also allowed him to produce songs that he knows that he thinks at the back of his mind that, oh yeah, this is definitely going to fit my sister. It's definitely going to fit her vibe. So that's been good. And I would say definitely we've just had each other's back, like through life's challenges, ups and downs. We're just, we're always looking out for each other, always supporting each other in our ventures and things like that. So I'd say it definitely brought us together in a stronger way. Like I always call him my older twin, because we're close and we always check in on each other. And
Yeah, so I also saw that you used to write short stories, or that, right?
Oh yeah. I'm like, where do you see that?
I did my research. I tried. So was it like writing short stories as a child, or where did that like
Yes.
creative interest come from?
Yeah, it was as a child. So that was actually my first introduction into writing before songwriting. So I used to write short stories, and I remember there was one where I had written this story and I gave it to my mother to print in her office. I was so like determined. I was like, I'm gonna be an author. I was like, and then she indulged me and took it to her office and had it typed out and printed out and binded. And she's like, here's your book. And so yeah, I used to write different stories. I mean, I do not remember what they were about. I don't even know where they are, but it's definitely, that was the intro to my writing for sure.
So as a child, what are some things that people would say about you as a child? Like, Sadé is this, or like, what were those like things that people would say, like your personality, like growing up?
Growing up, Sadé was definitely, people would say that I was very introverted at first. Like when they meet me in a public setting, they'd be like, okay, she's a little more quiet. But once they got to know me, they're like, whoa, okay. Like I had a lot of creative interests as a kid. I loved random facts. I would tell people, boast about the random facts that I know. I loved doing creative stuff. I loved helping people as well. I loved learning. Like I was always so curious, and I always wanted to know why. Like I'd always ask, why is it like that? Why does that work like that? Why is that like that? Why does that look like that? Like I was so curious about things, and I talked a lot. Like once I got comfortable, oh man, I wouldn't stop. I just
feel
keep
that.
going.
Literally, that's what they always said about me. So can you describe a moment in your childhood where you had like a deep connection with music? I know I read that your father was really into music, and he's the one who kind of introduced you into like heavy jazz sounds and other types of music.
A moment where I got really into music was performing in high school for sure. Because at that point, I knew that it was something that I didn't know how far it was going to go, but I knew it was something that I really resonated with. And I found myself feeling the most free and confident on stage. So I remember back in high school when I performed at our school concert, and it was like a whole thing. We had like choreo, we had like a rapper come up on stage in school. I'm like, guys, we were like really doing it. So that moment felt, it's like a core memory for me, because it was a reminder that, wow, like this is something you really love. This is something that lights you up.
Okay. So when was that moment that you're like, you know what, I'm really good at this. I really love this. I want to pursue this.
I still remember that as well. That was not that long ago, actually. I remember it was like back in 2017. I was talking to my parents and I was like, okay, I want you both to know that I love music a lot, as you already know, but I really want to start putting music out there and, my self-expression. I mean, before that, I had put out some music, but not professionally as a solo artist. And I don't know why I felt like I needed their blessing to do that, but it just felt like having that support would be great. And they were so supportive of it. They were like, yeah, go for it. Express yourself and put yourself out there. And yeah, I've been, I guess, on that journey since.
So I read that you were born in Nigeria and then you ended up moving to Canada later. So kind of being in bicultural or like having the Nigerian culture raised and then also being here in Canada, how would you say that's played a role in like the music you create? Because your music has elements and inspiration from like Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill. So how would you say those things play into your music?
That's specifically the influences or being from Nigeria.
Yeah, being from Nigeria and then having the influences.
It's definitely a how do you pronounce that word?
Diasporic.
Diasporic. It's definitely a diasporic sound.
Okay.
Because absolutely, I went through phases where I felt like, okay, I don't fit as well as I should as a Nigerian, and I don't fit as well as I should as a Canadian. And I was like, well, why don't I just bring those two blends and misfits together and create who I am as a result of this combination of, because both are equally my identities now. And so I definitely say that I focus a lot on just being true to who I am as an artist and allowing my personality come through in the sound, and then the culture as well come through in the sound. But I definitely see it as a diasporic sound where a lot of people would relate to it, immigrants or people who have sort of a blended culture or a blended interest in music or eclectic interest in music, that type of thing. Yeah.
So let's get into your EP, Intuition. So I want to know, what was the creative process like? I know that your other EP, it's called Keeping...
Oh, Time Love Journey.
Time Love Journey. And that has over 200,000 plays.
Yeah.
So first, let's go into, how do you feel like you've changed as an artist from that EP till now? And then we'll get into Intuition.
Yeah. How I feel I've changed as an artist from then to now is I'm more confident about my sound. I think back then, and I think that EP came out in 2020, COVID times, peak COVID times. I think I was very unsure of myself. I think I was still figuring out my sound, and I think I wanted to just have a body of work out there, but I wasn't really focusing on the cohesiveness of the body of work, or, do these songs blend well together, or the mixing quality, or the production side of things. I didn't really get involved in the production side of things at all, other than vocal production. So I didn't feel as connected, I would say, to the music that I put in 2020 compared to now, where I felt a lot more connected to it. Yeah.
So with Intuition, what was that creative process like? So you can get into maybe like the lyrics, or like what was that production like when you thought, okay, I wanted to make an EP? What was like the first initial things that you thought about before we got into the creation of it?
Yeah. So the first things I thought about was I wanted a sound that would feel timeless, a sound that people could listen to on repeat. I wanted a feel-good sound, and I also wanted something that really conveyed true emotions, and I wanted something that was really good quality, that I could look back in a few years and be like, all right, I'm proud, that sounds good. And so the process, it was very different from the previous one. So I would say with the previous one, I was very structured. I focused too much on, okay, it should have this number of songs, this number of minutes, da 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 da. But this one was a lot more feeling based. And because of that, it took a lot longer. Took me about 3 years to put it together, because it was a lot of, okay, how do I feel? Do I like this one? Do I need to change it? Some songs I will sit with them. I remember Intuition, I sat with it for a good 4 months and then messaged my sound engineer being like, hey, David, I think we should add horns to this and violin. And he's like, I thought we were done mixing this, but it was just like allowing myself to really sit with the songs and feel like, how does this feel like emotionally? Is this conveying what I wanted to convey? Do even certain times I might have been done with recording some vocals and I'd be like, I want to do those vocals again. Even if it's mixed, I feel like I need to convey the way that I sound differently. So I would say the process was a lot slower. It was a lot more intentional. It was a lot more and fun, I would say, because I got to spend a lot of time in the studio working on, vocal arrangements and the production side of things, being a part of that to make it a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, so I want to get into a few of the lyrics.
Oh, okay.
I want to get into a few of the lyrics because I've been rinsing it, and like I know I've said a lot, I love people's music, but your music is like my type of music. Like when people think of Levene, this is like the type of music because it has those fusion of those sounds. And I grew up with like, my mom grew like very like old school with jazz and like James Brown and like those percussions. So I hear it in your voice. So...
Uh-oh.
There's no uh-oh. In Joe, you say, "'Cause when I look into your eyes, I got mesmerized by the sensation." So, can you share, like, is there a story behind these lyrics, or is there emotions behind these lyrics, or maybe you remember something in the past and it like kind of led you?
Yeah. Joe is an easy one actually to describe. Because with Joe, I was picturing like the perfect summer evening in Lagos. I was like imagining like this space, like it's out in like a beach. There's like there's live instrumentation. It's one of those open patio spaces where the drummers are going and the musicians are going, and it's like hot, and it's like sort of like, so the reason why the song starts with like also saying cobalt blue nights, because it's like in the nighttime, but it's already past midnight. It's now at like, you know, just before the sun rises, people are still like, because it's outside. A very common thing. Exactly. Everyone's outside. So it's like everyone's dancing. It's like peak of the evening. And then I lock eyes with, I'm imagining myself like locking eyes with this guy that's like, you know, in the other side of the room. And I'm like, ooh, I think we need to dance, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So that's where like, when you go into like the chorus, it's like, Joe, like, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, Diamonds. Okay.
Dum, dum, dum.
This lyric where you said, "'Cause diamonds aren't for everyone, and they sure aren't meant for you."
Sheesh.
So I was like listening to it over. I was like, okay, she could mean different things. She could say like, maybe, let's say it's like a relationship where it's a guy like saying that like, I'm precious, but I'm not meant for you. Is that like, I feel like that's like one way to take it. Or yeah, like, because I'm precious and I'm not meant for you. So is that it? Or like maybe there's another meaning that you could add to that?
No, that's exactly it. She's being sassy. You know? It's definitely a sassy lyric where it's like recognizing your worth. You know, it's from that place of recognizing your worth and being like, you know what? Diamonds aren't for everyone. I'm a diamond, I'm a gem, and I'm not for you, you know, that kind of thing. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that maybe he might not have another diamond for him out there, maybe, just not this diamond.
Oh, see, you get it. Love it. Now, this lyric touched me. It says in Diamonds as well, I'm so done crying over you. Yes. So I'm like, maybe she's talking about heartbreak, or it could be like a friendship or something deep in your life. Is it about that? And when you're going through something like heartbreak, what's like the recipe? Like, what do you do? Like, what would you tell the girlies? Like, okay, you're going through this. This is what I did to overcome it.
Well, singing. For one, definitely.
Yeah.
But also, I would say I just allow myself to feel it. I'm a big feeler, I guess, hence the artist. But I cry. I just allow myself to go through the emotions. And once I've felt them, because for me, there's no point in holding it in. You hold it in, it comes out at some point. Something triggers you, then you start crying. It's like, allow yourself to go through that healing process that you need to. There's no shame in going through that. And then take care of yourself. Like, do things that make you happy. Do your makeup, get your nails done. Like, go out with your friends. Like, even if you're not feeling like it, that's the other thing. It's like, with heartbreak, there are days where you just don't want to go anywhere. You just want to be at home, and that's the better thing to do. But you will always feel better going out. Like, you'd be so much happier that you did than just being at home and wallowing in sadness, you know? So, yeah.
Now, in Intuition, the lyric you said, one of the lyrics you said is, "I'm so indecisive, just scared I can't deny it." See, this lyric, I felt it because it reminded me of something. I was like, is she talking about me? So how do you like find the balance between like exposing maybe like your fears and like showcasing your strength through lyrics as well?
That's such a good question. I mean, I feel like in a sense, exposing your fears is in a way also expressing your strength, because that vulnerable place that you go to is what allows people to connect to you. And especially when they're able to see you get through that and be on the other side, they're like, okay, she was able to go through that, express herself in that, and she's gotten better from that. So I think before, I used to be very self-conscious about being vulnerable. Like, even when the EP first came out, like when people were like, oh, I love diamonds, I'm like, oh no, you do? You do? You love intuition? Oh no? Because I was just like, oh my gosh, like so much of myself is in there. But that's what creates that connection that makes someone go, yeah, I feel that too. And so I definitely think it goes hand in hand.
Okay, I love that. Now let's get into If All I Have.
Oh.
So this lyric says, but if all we have is tonight, I'll cherish your love like delight.
I know, right?
What a lyric! The lyric is lyricking. So what was like your thought process when you came up with that? And is it kind of like, hey, maybe tonight I met you, we don't know if we're going to see each other again.
Yeah.
So let's make tonight what it is.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like with the angle?
It kind of is the angle.
Or if there's another angle, let me know.
It's kind of like the angle. It's almost like, I would say, I like to think of it as like almost like the continuation of Joe in a sense, where it's like now you've made this beautiful connection with this person, and you're not sure if it's gonna lead to anything. There have been many times like that. Like I think a lot of us can relate to like moments where you go out, you meet this guy, you connect with him, but you're not sure if you're gonna see again. It's like, is he gonna ask for my number? Is he not? Is anything gonna come from this? Maybe, maybe not. But if it does, great. Like, I'll, fantastic. If not, I'll cherish like this moment. I'll cherish like the time that we're spending together. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a segment that you like to call 5 senses. So basically, if you were to like close your eyes, or you can close your eyes and describe like 5 senses. So like, which is sight, sound, taste, and smell. This is like you creating like your dream world, right? So I'm gonna give you each sense, and you kind of let me know like what that would look like for you. So describe this place, like what the sight looks like.
So the sight that is my dream world is definitely, it's tropical for sure. It has a lot of, it almost looks like a resort, but not as put together as a resort. It's a lot more, because it's vibrant and it's a blend of culture as well. There's a lot of culture in the space. People are living very simple lives in the space and just going about their days. There's fruits in the trees. There's live music happening. People are doing pottery, and they are carving different sculptures. Kids are running around. Older generations are just sort of watching the waves in the water. It's very beautiful and peaceful. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. It's like your music. Okay, so what would people be hearing?
Oh,
in this tropical resort, but not resort space where people are doing artistic things and enjoying each other's company?
Yeah, they're hearing street dancing. They're hearing like people walking with boombox on their across their shoulders, and as they're walking, people are vibing to it, being like, "Yeah!" There's some cars going through, zoom, random people in colored cars like green and red. They're hearing the sound of the breeze when it goes by, and the sound that it makes with the trees and makes the trees whistle. They're hearing the sound of waves if they're closer to the water side. They're hearing the sound of people, women chatting and talking to each other across like different buildings. Yeah.
Okay, love that. So what are people tasting?
Oh, what are they tasting?
In your creative wonderland.
Oh, wow. What are they tasting? Man, I got to take it to the motherland.
Well, what kind of foods? Like, what's there?
Food? Ooh, what's there? We've got...
Is it like suya?
We've got suya, street suya.
Like, what else? What else is there?
We've got suya, we've got boli, which is like
plantain.
Yeah, plantain.
Okay, the roasted one.
plantain.
Yeah.
We've got the roasted corn. We've got ofada rice and stew. We've got egusi soup. We've got someone pounding yam
in the corner. So it's just like everything's just right in this world.
Exactly.
Great. So what are people like? What would the touch of this space be like?
The touch of the space. That's a good one. It's a little bit edgy. It's not like because it's not too put together. So it's a little bit edgy in some areas, and in some areas it's a little more smooth. So sort of a mix of that, like, keeps you on your toes a little bit. Yeah.
And what's the smell? I know we went through food, but maybe there's other scents as well.
Oh, fresh scent. Definitely fresh scent. Yeah.
Okay. Love that. So recently you've been nominated for the Western Canadian Music Awards in the R&B category. So how does it feel to receive this nomination?
Yeah, I'm so honored. I really am honored. I was not expecting it. It was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there and see what happens. So to be recognized in that way means a lot, because it just shows me that people appreciate the sound, and also the nominees are so incredible too, and a very talented artist as well. So I'm very honored. Yeah. Here's hoping that we win.
Yes, you're going to win. Of course you're going to win. Yes. And then we'll put it here and be like, winner of 2024. Okay. Per. So, how long would you say you've been in like the Canadian music industry? Because growing up here, I was an avid Much Music watcher, MTV watcher. And I know that back in the day we had huge, like, Canadian music has been big. I know people think of like Drake or like The Weeknd, but we had like Fifi Dobson, Nelly Furtado, Avril Lavigne, Keisha Shante, Sean Desmond, Danny Fernandez, George. Like there were so many people in that space. So do you feel like the Canadian music industry is supporting you now in the way, especially with having like this Afro-soul jazz type sound? Do you feel like you're being supported in that?
That's a good question. I feel like it has improved over the years is how I would describe it. When I first started back in, I think I kind of officially started, I'd say in the fall of 2018. So it's been 6 years? I felt very lost. It was almost like, okay, I didn't have as many references as I would have loved. And I was, and I guess still am living out in BC. And I just felt like, wow, where are the people like me? Like, it was just so hard to like find people who could resonate with the sound. It was almost more of like, oh, I appreciate this, but I don't know if I necessarily like resonate with it enough to like really support you and push you out there. So it took a while. And, I had to kind of remind myself that there are people out there who are going to appreciate the sound, regardless. It might not, it might be harder to find, but they're out there. It's just being more confident in myself and what I have to offer. So I think in the beginning, I was definitely not very confident, and that kind of showed when I tried to pitch myself as well. But then slowly I started to feel more confident. I would say the support has improved, but it can still definitely get better. I think that when it comes to artists of color in general in Canada, being still more of a minority, and even more so when it comes to music, because the genres that are pushed more in Canada are definitely more mainstream, definitely more like on the side of like rock and folk. And then when you start to dive into more of sounds like Afro-soul and R&B that require like a certain kind of listener to appreciate that, sometimes it's harder. So it's until they have those references, then they can be like, oh, okay, cool. But what I think has happened is with the rise of Afrobeats in a global scale, with the rise of Amapiano in a global scale, with the rise of Afrofusion elements in a global scale, that has helped to also push artists like myself for people to be like, oh, that makes sense. I can see the connection here. Like I can see like where this fits. And also just people recognizing that you shouldn't have to lose your identity in trying to create music. You should be able to create from that place. So it's still a work in progress. We can still do so much more advocating for artists, especially artists in, the Afro-soul R&B scene in Canada, 100%. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
No, I think I think even I was telling on another episode, I was telling my friend that I don't know if it was a parliament or there was this part of Canada where they were like in
I know exactly what you're
and they
talking
were
about.
like, oh, Burna Boy. I was like, so how does
I saw that. And the guy was like, yeah, I listen to Burna
He's
Boy.
like, I listen to him all the time. So I'm like, it's impacting more than
love
like
it.
what we thought.
Yes.
Because now it's like, before it was like, oh, this is niche sound. This is there. We don't understand this. And now it's like, oh no, I have Burna Boy in my playlist. I have his whole album. I like Davido. Oh, let's listen to this new artist, this new sound. So it's like, it's doing more than we think it is. And I think in the next 5 years, I think Canada has started to show that, hey, like we have this industry.
Exactly.
I think even with Ashake coming to Edmonton, like it was such a huge thing. Everybody who went was like the best show ever. So I just hope in the future, very soon, that like there's more things that come up for the artist here, because I was saying that artists like Ashake even pushes more people here, because like people who open for him can be artists based out of the cities. It can be, it's like the Afro dancers, it's the media. It's like all of those people who are in those spaces that haven't had the limelight, but it's like, oh, my people are here. Okay, let's pull up. So that's what I love about it. Amazing. So let's talk about future projects and collaborations. So in the future, what kind of are there projects that you want to get into? Maybe music related, maybe not. Maybe it's visuals or certain things that you want to tap into.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say in the future, I want to do more collaborations. I want to do more artist collaborations. I definitely want to tap more into the Nigerian music scene as well. Like I'm really hoping when the timing is right to go to Nigeria. I haven't been in so long now, and meet with artists that are out there. I'm kind of going back now that the project is out. I'm going back into the listener phase again, which I love. It's like one of my favorite times, just studying and like seeing what's out there. Yeah. So I'm definitely imagining like a lot of collaborations for the future, and a lot of visuals I'm hoping as well, because that's still like a huge part of who I am, and it brings together like my love for fashion and and photography and all of those things together. Yeah.
So who are the, like, if you can mention like a few of those, like who's like somebody who would be like, oh my gosh, I would love to work with this artist, and why? Oh, it could be one or two that you're like, I really love this about them, and this is why I feel like we'd connect and we'd be great working with each other.
Yeah, like there's a few, definitely. Like there's a lot of artists that are doing really incredible things right now. I would love to work with Thames. I would love to be a songwriter for her, but not in the like being a feature, but more of a songwriter for her.
Say it. You don't know who's listening. Say it.
I'd love to put some lyrics down for her, and I think she'd bring that out in a beautiful way. Another artist that I would love to work with. I mean, I've been a huge fan of a few producers my whole life, like Timberland, like Pharrell. I've always imagined working with those artists, and I wonder what it would be like if they were to take their sound and add in more African elements to it, and how that would come out especially with some of the signature sounds that they have, like combining that in an African way. I'm like, ooh, I'm so curious to know what that would sound like. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to like the creative process, and you like kind of, how do you get through like that imposter syndrome of like, you're writing this, you're like, I'm not sure, oh my gosh, I have to release this. Ugh, okay, fine, let me push it out. But you're like, no, this needs to be fixed, or this needs to be changed. How do you kind of like navigate that side of it? And you're like, okay, you know what, final product, let's go.
Honestly, I reach out to people for support, because when I get in my head, I get in my head. I'm like, this is not going anywhere. I reach out to people for support, and also for their honest opinion about things. And it's funny, a lot of the times they're always very excited to like hear it, and I realize, oh, I guess it does sound nice.
So how would you say has been the reception so far with your music, and especially people who may have never heard about like Afro-soul and vintage sounds incorporated with jazz? Like how has the reception been so far?
It's been really amazing. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I was very nervous putting this out, and one thing I would say that's been very different from the first project is people sending me personal messages, like DMs, texts, like being like, I listened to this like multiple times, or like there was one that really touched me. She was like, when Intuition came out last year as a single, she said she listened to it on repeat the entire year, that by the time the project came out as a whole, when she heard the intro, it got her very emotional, because it just felt like the completion of like what she had heard, last year and all that. And that just like really touched me. So I would say that's been the big difference, the reception and the personal messages that people have been sending about their experience listening to the project.
So I want to get a little bit into like the production of like putting those components and elements together for like the music and the sound. So when working with like bands or instrumentalists and you want this Afro sound, how do you like integrate? Because I always wondered, especially like artists living abroad, if they don't have like, if they're not able to get the connections to that. Because what I also realized is a lot of the African boys that are out here playing the instrumentalists, they play in church. So they're playing the drums in church, they're playing the bass guitar. So like when they, like if I think of like the composers, they play for like Ashake and Davido, they're his band.
Amazing.
They started in church. So like you can hear like, okay, like you was in church, like, you know? So is it like do I like teaching them or like, there's like, okay, these are the chords, but there's like a specific sound that like, sometimes like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Like, how do you go about that?
Man, it's tough. It is tough. And it's a mix of the two.
Okay.
So there's some people who get it right away. And some of them have like Latino background, like my bass player, for example.
Yeah,
Ronaldo.
Latino. Yeah, that makes sense.
He's from Brazil, so he gets it.
It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people, it's a bit harder. They have to like listen to the sound. I have to send them examples.
Okay.
And be like, okay, listen to this drum pattern, listen to that, like study it, and they have to put in the time to learn it because they're just not. It doesn't come to them naturally. Okay. And yeah, so it's definitely a mix of the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great to know.
I always tried though to find people who get it.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier than having to teach it, because you can't really teach a feeling, you know, like especially if it's something that you haven't been doing from an early age, it's very, very tough. So I usually try to find people who I feel would work really well with the sound.
Okay.
Which are very few, but I'm grateful for
No,
them.
but I think it's another thing to note because we don't always have access to like the people who have been playing this sound or like, okay, they can hear it and okay, next second they're on it.
Exactly.
So like, it's kind of you also introducing them to the culture. Like, hey, I grew up and these are like the sounds that we're rinsing. And like for them, it might be like repetition. Like, okay, you're not going to get it this time, but like listen to it every day for the next 24 hours. And like it'll infuse into your body eventually. So that's amazing. So now we've gotten to the part where you get to ask me 2 unexpected questions.
Oh.
So I feel like I've been giving you all this questions, but now you can relax and ask me off the top of your head. If there's like 2 questions you want to ask me and I will like elaborate on them.
Well, I heard you say that you used to dance. So I'm so curious about that. Like, do you still dance? How did you get into dancing? What's that about?
Yes. I used to dance this city quite a while. I want to say maybe I was dancing for like 7-ish years.
Wow.
So when I was younger, I was always like watching these hip hop videos and like just copying what they were doing. And then when I got a little bit older, like into high school, I was able to like afford a few classes. Wasn't able to afford, so I stopped, but like it was always there. And then the pivotal moment, I think, was there was these dancers in the UK. I believe they were like called SEO dancers.
Oh yeah,
And like I would watch their like videos in the studio and just like copy what they were doing.
Wow.
And then there were so many types of music that I grew up with. So like I grew up with a lot of like Francophone African music. So I was like copying the moves from there. And then I think it was like this is way back, like 2013. I ended up joining like a West African dance ensemble. So where it's like people are they're playing different types of drums. And then we were the dancers for it. So that like got me into like the traditional side of things. And then a few of us from that group and a few of people from U of A, they would come to like, or universities around the city would come together, and then we would like do like this Afro fusion of like a blend of the old and a blend of the new. And we would perform at like different like African Student Association events, in any events that in the city, fashion shows. So got really involved. Am I still dancing? I stopped in like, I think it was like 2019 when I like graduated from school and like, it was just, the support wasn't there and I didn't know, like navigating it by myself. Like 2 of the members of our group ended up, some moved to Ontario, some like went to school in the States. So it was just 2 of us left. And one of the other ones, he actually has he's the owner of La Connection now. So so he was doing La Connection now.
He's
and we
been
used
helping
to,
with the promo.
So we used to dance together. And so I've known him like long time. It was just, something I still love. Like I'll dance in my house.
Yeah.
But these new age dances where they are doing this leg work, I say, hey, let's relax.
I know some of the leg work. I'm like, let's just...
when we were doing shaku shaku. That was it. And now these people are slinging legs here and there. I'm like, relax.
The way they're doing, the knee don't pop.
But it's something I still want to like foster, and I think it's just doing it in a way that I feel confident and comfortable and not putting pressure on myself. So I want to get into more communities. Like there's like certain events. If there's like a group of young people, I think like teaching them at a class to make it fun for them is the lane I'm so I'm slowly getting back into it. But these bones need to be woken up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. Another question I have for you is more culture related.
Okay.
So you're based in Edmonton, but then you also have your Cameroonian culture?
No, so Togolese and Ghanaian.
Oh, sorry. Togolese and Ghanaian culture. How do you resonate with all of those cultures, or how do you feel like your identity, like do you feel like you lean more into one culture versus the other, or they influence you in different ways, or like...
Years ago, I was watching a lot of UK media where they would like, before Afrobeats became popular, but there was like a radio station, I think it was like Beat FM or something, where there was this, his name is Adeshope Olajide, and he's a big like journalist. He's been speaking about Afrobeats for years. So I used to watch him, and like, so that like I was like up with the artists like 2013, 2012, really deep into it. But culturally, I think because it's just the fact that I don't speak French, and I've been battling with this because when I start releasing stuff and they say she's Ghanaian and Togolese, then the French side come and call me. They want French interview. I'm like, je m'appelle.
We need to get to that point with AI where you could just be talking and it's translating like right away. You know?
And then like speaking the mother tongue, it's like, even in Ghana, it's like me being from the tribe I'm from, which is Ewe. It's like we're in Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. So, and then a lot of us, we have ancestors from Benin, Nigeria, Togo. So it's like this blend,
even
like
more like
forever a blend. Like like my grandmother can speak small Yoruba because of the people she lived around. Like growing up, my parents, like we did hang out with the Ghanaian community, but I grew up with like the South Sudanese community. That was actually my community. Oh, wow. Because my best friend growing up, that's where she's from. Yeah. And then, so that was like my community that I was hanging out with. So their food, their music, their like, I could even understand a form of Arabic at a time as well. Wow. And then just culturally, my parents always brought different elements. Like my dad traveled, he lived in like Cote d'Ivoire, he's lived in Liberia. So like he would tell us about that. And then he also like sometimes cooks foods from there. Yeah. So it like bring it back home. Then he went to school in the Caribbean. Yeah. So he would tell me about like living in the Caribbean, those islands, what it's like. And he has a lot of friends from there. And then I also lived in Jamaica for 6 months, 2019. So like, it's a merge of too many things. That's why I feel like it's easier for me to like connect with so many different people from the diaspora, because I'm like, oh, like I know a lot about Nigeria. I have a lot of friends. Yeah. So they my Nigerian guy friends speak to me fully in Pidgin. I don't know how they know I understand, but they'll just be speaking to me and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Then like I have like, you know, so it's like so many different elements, and I don't feel shy when I'm in spaces with people who are not from the same countries as me. I'm like, oh, it's the music, it's the food, let's jam. I'm not like, oh, I'm so different. I like, it's like a chameleon. I just like kind of fit myself into it. So I don't like look at myself as an outsider. I'm like, oh, I love you. I love your culture. Okay, what's the food? Where's the jam? That's what I love. So that's how like even like creating this podcast is like kind of about that, like that cultural renaissance and like bridging together. So that's how I go about it.
That's amazing.
Long story short.
Good answer.
Yeah. So if there's any like upcoming projects or anything you want people to know, let us know about that.
Well, have to look out for the upcoming projects. And, you know, on my socials, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. And that's the best place, or my website. And that's the best place that you would get any updates with upcoming projects and music, or where I'm performing.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was such a fun conversation. And I know like doing an interview the day of is a lot. So I appreciate you coming in today.
My pleasure.
And this has been another episode of Chop It Up with your girl Lebana. Thank you so much for listening to this. We hope you're inspired. Make sure you follow Sadé Awele on all social media platforms to keep up with her. And next week we'll be back with another episode so that you can be inspired to live your best life. Have a good day, night, evening, wherever you are, and signing out. Bye.